Have you ever looked at a plate and thought, how on earth does something so simple look so deliberate? Like every leaf, every stroke of sauce somehow knows exactly where it's meant to be. That's the power of negative space. Not what you put on the plate, but what you choose to leave off. In the last 2 videos, we've explored how negative space works in theory, how it creates focus, creates breathing room, and draws the eye. But today, we're taking it into the kitchen to see how chefs use it for real. And I wanted to show you a perfect example. I recently filmed with Chef Anthony Raffo, and he plated a dish that sounds simple, a deconstructed leaf salad, but visually it's one of the most confident uses I've seen of negative space recently. Every leaf, every stalk, every pocket of empty space has a job to do. So let's jump into the demo and watch how he builds it, and more importantly, how he thinks it through. We're on negative space this time, so what's the dish? I mean, I'm intrigued. We've got some amazing, your mise en place looks fantastic already.
Thank you very much. Again, it is very appealing to the eye, the way it's all coming up, same direction.
Yeah.
I really like that. It looks very similar to that on the plate as well. But we're in spring, so obviously we're using beautiful asparagus from the New Forest Fruit Company. We've got a herb emulsion that's going to go on the bottom, which is all herbs from the farm as well. And we're just going to spray it with a lovely lemon verbena vinaigrette.
Okay.
But yeah, the idea of this dish is that you've got scale. The plants or the herbs are doing the job of doing the scale already, and we're just placing it to have it pleasing to the eye with the negative space.
I imagine the amount of accuracy needed on this is a lot greater than the last dish, where it was kind of see how it works in the bowl.
Yeah, they're very similar dishes, as they're using the similar ingredients, the same ingredients, but it's just a different way of approaching the plating and attacking the plating of how it's going to look to the guest when it goes down.
Fantastic.
So I'll just give it a go. But with this one, first of all, I'm going to just start plating very randomly at the beginning. And then after that, then I'll put other ingredients down, like the herb emulsion or mayonnaise, because you want to get happy with how it looks to begin with before you start putting the mayonnaise down, because as soon as you put the mayonnaise down, you're kind of already stuck. It has to go there.
So the mayonnaise is kind of like the anchor point almost.
Yeah, it's giving the dish texture and flavour, but it's also help anchoring some of these leaves so that when it comes off the pass and it's going to the guest, they're not blowing all over the place.
I see.
So it has a function to it as well as being delicious.
Is there a reason why you wouldn't have put the anchor point in first?
It's just so that once you put the anchor point and then you're not very happy, like I'm not happy now having this and this because they're very similar, they're both triangles. I'm not happy with having them so close to each other like that.
And this is the kind of movement I think a lot of people miss in plating, that instinct for composition. If the idea of noticing shapes, spotting clashes, or shifting ingredients off centre is opening your eyes to the design side of plating, that's exactly why I wrote the Plating Gym. It's designed to help you build that instinct, that ability to recognise when layout feels dynamic, balanced, or intentional. And if you just want a quick nudge while you're actually in the kitchen, why not download my free Plate Like a Pro checklist? It gives you a simple reference you can glance at before plating to steer you towards a cleaner, more confident composition. You can find both in the link in the description below. Yeah.
If I'd already put the mayonnaise down, I'd have to get another plate or wipe it off or get another plate and everything like that.
So there's a very practical reason, which makes an awful lot of sense.
Yeah, so you kind of want to play around first before you're committed.
Yeah. So again, actually texture is playing a lot into this dish as well then, isn't it really? Because you just made the point about how you two similar looking shapes and textures next to each other.
Yeah. I mean, that's all what food is right? Like it's different shapes, textures.
Yeah.
But I've also intentionally doing the prep, I've kept some of these stems very long. So you're getting that perception of everything being very straight and in a line as well. So you're accentuating that with these long stems.
Yeah.
So like with this one here, you've got this very long stem.
Because I guess as well, because the negative space is such an important part of this dish, the visual weight of each of the elements is actually quite similar, isn't it? If you think about the amount of green space that they're actually all taking up is relatively similar when you take into account the stalk and things as well. Is this basically never the same twice, I imagine?
Yeah, exactly. So obviously, because we're using natural ingredients, you won't get a piece of lettuce or a piece of the sweet Sicily that's always going to look exactly the same. It's always going to be slightly different. They obviously look the same, but they all look slightly different sizes and everything. So they take up different spaces.
Would it ever be different between guests?
So they would all have 2 pieces of asparagus, but then and then they would all have one of each of these ingredients.
Yeah.
But it all depends. Like, for example, the chervil, I might have got a piece that had a longer stalk, so then I would have put it somewhere else.
Yep.
But it's all about just being pleasing to the eye, to the guest.
Yep.
And that for me to have these two here that are slightly similar shapes, but now they're in the centre of either side, that's very pleasing to me.
Yes.
And then to have these, because I've cut these at an angle, to then have it plated at an angle to each other as well, is very pleasing.
Yeah.
So you can see that this is almost at the same level as this side.
Yeah.
So it's all about thinking about this whilst you're plating.
And is this something that, you said you do art as for fun anyway. Do you think you just kind of have an eye? This was never sort of taught to you at chef school if you went or anything like that. This is all kind of, not innate because clearly you work at it, but it's something that hasn't been taught to you as such in a food-based context.
This is all experience, yeah.
Okay.
There was nothing, when I was at college, which was a million years ago, catering college, there was no part of it that was about plating. It was all about how the mechanics of everything.
Yeah.
How to make the sauce, following a recipe to make the end result. There was nothing about how to make things look beautiful on a plate, or nothing about scale or texture or anything like that. It was very much, and because you're getting taught old classic French dishes, it was all very much just regimented. So this has all just come from experience and also influenced by other chefs, other restaurants. But it just takes time. I mean, there is an element of creativity, a natural creativity. But the good thing about this job is like you don't have to be 100% naturally creative. You can always learn that from a creative chef.
Yeah.
And I've just been lucky that I have worked over the years with creative chefs, that I've slowly been able to come up with my own style, but it's also on trend at the moment with other chefs. But this is like you'd be able to, I feel that some of my dishes, if it goes down on the table, you'd be able to say, yes, that's an Anthony Raffo dish. Which is important to me because you don't just want to go around copying everybody, right?
Absolutely.
But yeah, there's no, I've never been taught how to be creative. And then would you be able to be taught how to be creative on a dish? I think you could, but you'd have to be taught by someone who was naturally creative.
Yeah. You've got to find those sources of inspiration no matter what the creative endeavour, I think, don't you really? It's such a brave plate of food in terms of the visuals of that, I think. Both the dessert and this, it takes a degree of confidence and belief in what you're doing to produce this for somebody, I think.
Well, if you're not confident in what you're doing and you don't believe in what you're doing, then there's something wrong.
You coming down? There you go, wicked. So when you're ready, just give it a go. See if we can catch it. I think it might be too fine, but that's all right.
Yeah, so this is a fancy salad, basically, with mayonnaise. And then you're just seasoning it with the vinaigrette.
Yeah. You do not see, or I certainly do not see, many isolated salads.
No.
So again, it's
you're showcasing each individual piece instead of just like the other one, you're putting it in a bowl and just having it as natural as possible. This is more of an unnatural, but showcasing the natural beauty, if that makes sense.
Well, I think both the plates we've seen, all three plates, you're kind of challenging expectation visually, and subverting expectation, which I think is really, really smart. But I think also a lot of people would probably think, well, you've just separated it.
Yeah.
But clearly there's an awful lot more.
There is still thought behind it,
Yeah. But visually it looks, if you clumped all that together in the middle into a nice circle, it would nowhere near be as impactful.
Yeah. I agree.
Different. And that, again, in this day and age, that's important, I think, is to separate yourself, be more of a contrarian, to do things slightly differently, is what I think people want. Because let's face it, I could get those ingredients, put them into a circle. I'd never think of doing that. I wouldn't have the confidence to do that at home.
Well, it's also having the confidence of the produce you're using. Yeah. That you're saying that, well, one is the confidence of the produce and saying, look, this is the best produce and this is the best that you can get right in this area right now on that plate in front of you. Yeah. But it's also showing confidence of the ability to be able to plate like this and have it so minimalist is that you know that the diner is going to have the whole menu, so it's a whole journey. Yeah. So it would be a bit like iffy if you went to a restaurant and you had a starter, main, and dessert, and that was your main. Yeah. It would be a little bit like, oh wow, that's not going to be. It's going to be tasty, but it's not going to be filling. Yeah. But you have to realise that it's going to be the whole journey of the menu as well. So this would be more of at the very beginning of a menu.
Yeah.
So it's getting you excited, but it's fresh, it's clean, it's cleansing your palate, but it's got all these herbs and things. So it's wakening up your taste buds. So the plating has also got to be, you've got to think of it as part of the journey of where you are in the menu and where you're going to put the dish on the menu as well.
I think specifically with negative space and that dish, what I think is particularly clever is traditionally when you think of negative space, when I think of negative space, it's almost like in the photography ways, and you have a frame around the main part, don't you? And with a salad, certainly you would condense it in the middle. And you'd have the negative space around the outside. What I think is quite smart about that is you've gone all the way up to the edge. Well, not all the way up to the edge, because clearly there is a bit of white space there, but you've spread it out, but there's still negative space in between each single part, if you know what I mean. So it's a great representation of how to use negative space in a more creative way, rather than just the traditional way of just around the outside.
Yeah.
Which again is clever. So it's just all around a very, very smart looking plate of food, I think. So
Thank you.
Brilliant. Watching that back, a few things from the conversation I had with Anthony really stood out. When Anthony said, if you're not confident in what you're doing, something's wrong, he meant it. Minimal plating only works when you trust your ingredients and trust your instincts. That confidence is the negative space. Anthony showed us why he starts without the herb emulsion or the mayo. Once the anchor point goes down, the layout is fixed. And did you see when he placed down two similar leaves together and instantly said that wasn't right? Well, you could see why this flexibility matters early on. Our chat about the two triangle-shaped leaves said it all. Matching shapes crowd each other. And when he talked about keeping stems long to accentuate the line, he showed how direction and texture creates flow. We talked about the fact he plates right up to the edge of the dish, and yet the dish still has room to breathe. That's because the negative space sits between each element and not just around it. Anthony explained how this dish sits at the start of his tasting menu, a fresh and clean awakening. The space on the plate mirrors the space in his dining experience. When he said none of this was taught in culinary school, it was a great reminder. Creativity is not fixed, it's absorbed, practiced and repeated. And that finally brings us to the end of this 3-part series on negative space. We started with the theory. What is negative space and why it matters? Then we looked at the principles you can actually use, the tools to shape space with intention. And today we saw it all come together on a real plate, in real time, with the chef who uses negative space as confidently as colour or texture. If you missed either of the first 2 videos, go back and watch them now. This whole series was designed to give you a complete understanding, from concept to execution. And now it's your turn. On your next plate, whether it's a tasting dish or a home-cooked dinner or something for the gram, try it. Hold back, leave gaps, and make space a design choice, not an accident. And because sometimes the most beautiful part of a dish can be what's not there.